welcome back to this week's Children's Ministry Online. We have some fun dancing, a story, and a craft waiting for you, so let's get into it.
Over mountains high, through the valleys low, God is good. Wherever we go, from the brightest days to the darkest nights, God is good all the time. Oh, 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 God is good. Oh, oh, snow to the vast unknown, everywhere we go, God is good. Through the trials we face, He will show the way. We will stand and say that God is good. Oh, 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 God is good. Oh, 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 around. Our God is good. When nothing goes our way, and it's just not our day. Our God is good. Oh, 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 God is good. Oh, 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 over mountains high, through the valleys low, God is good. Wherever we go, from the brightest days to the darkest nights, God is good. Over mountains high, through the valleys low, God is good. Wherever we go, from the brightest days to the darkest nights, God is good all the time. Oh, 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 God is good. Oh, 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 God is good.
Psalms 41 and 2. I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock, gave me a firm place to stand. He set my feet on a rock, gave me a firm place to stand. Set my feet on a rock, yeah, and here I am. I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock, gave me a firm place to stand. He set my feet on a rock, gave me a firm place to stand. Set my feet on a rock, yeah, and here I am. Waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock, he gave me a firm place to stand. He set my feet on a rock, gave me a firm place to stand. Set my feet on a rock, yeah, and here I am, hey, hey. Here I am, here I am, here I am.
All right, it is time to get into our story for today. So we'll be reading from the Jesus Storybook Bible, and the story today is called The Terrible Lie, which is when Adam and Eve lose everything. This is from Genesis 3. Now, if you're following along with me to the Jesus Storybook Bible, you can go to page 28 and read along. Adam and Eve lived happily together in their beautiful new home, and everything was perfect for a while, until the day when everything went wrong. God had a horrible enemy. His name was Satan. Satan had once been the most beautiful angel, but he didn't want to be just an angel. He wanted to be God. He grew proud and evil and full of hate, and God had to send him out of heaven. Satan was seething with anger and looking for a way to hurt God. He wanted to stop God's plan and stop this love story right there. So he disguised himself as a snake, and he waited in the garden for Adam and Eve. Now, God had given Adam and Eve only one rule. Don't eat the fruit on that tree, God told them, because if you do, you'll think that you know everything. You'll stop trusting me, and then death and sadness and tears will come. You see, God knew if they ate the fruit that they would think that they didn't need him, and they would try to make themselves happy without him. But God knew that there was no such thing as happiness without him, and life without him wouldn't be life at all. As soon as the snake saw his chance, he slithered silently up to Eve. "Does God really love you?" the serpent whispered. "If he does, why won't he let you eat the nice, juicy, and delicious fruit? Poor you. Perhaps God doesn't want you to be happy." The snake's words hissed into her ears and sunk down deep into her heart like poison. Does God love me? Eve wondered. Suddenly, she didn't know anymore. "Just trust me," the serpent whispered. "You don't need God. One small taste, that's all, and you'll be happier than you could ever dream." Eve picked the fruit and she ate some, and then Adam ate some too. And a terrible lie came into the world, and it would never leave. It would live on in every human heart, whispering to every one of God's children, "God doesn't love me." And it wasn't a dream, it was more a nightmare. A dove flew from Adam's hand. A deer darted in a thicket. It was as if they were frightened by something. A chill was in the air. Something strange was happening. They had always been naked, but now they felt naked and wrong. And they didn't want anyone to see them, so they hid. Later that evening, as God was taking his walk, he called to them, "Children?" Usually, Adam and Eve loved to hear God's voice, and they would run to him. But this time, they ran away from him and hid in the shadows. "Where are you?" God called. "Hiding," Adam said. "We're afraid of you." "Did you eat the fruit I told you not to eat?" God asked them. Adam said, "Eve made me do it." "What have you done?" God asked. Eve said, "The serpent made me do it." And terrible pain came into God's heart. His children hadn't just broken the one rule, but they had broken God's heart. They had broken their wonderful relationship with him, And now he knew everything else would break. God's creation would start to unravel and come undone and go wrong. From now on, everything would die, even though it was all supposed to last forever. You see, sin had come into God's perfect world, and it would never leave. God's children would be always running away from him and hiding in the dark. Their hearts would break now and never work properly again. God couldn't let his children live forever, not in such pain, and not without him. There was only one way to protect them. "You will have to leave the garden now," God told his children, his eyes filling with tears. "There is no longer your true home. It's just not the place for you anymore." But before they left the garden, God made clothes for his children to cover them. He gently clothed them, and then he sent them away on a long, long journey, out of the garden and out of their home. Well, in another story, it would all be over, and that would have been the end. But not in this story. God loved his children too much to let the story end there. Even though he knew he would suffer, God had a plan, a magnificent dream. One day he would get his children back. One day he would make the world their perfect home again. And one day he would wipe away every tear from their eyes. You see, no matter what, in spite of everything, God would love his children with a never-stopping, never-giving up, unbreaking, and always and forever love. And though they would forget him and run from him, deep in their hearts, God's children would miss him always, and they would long for him. Lost children yearning for their home. Before they left the garden, God whispered a promise to Adam and Eve. "It will not always be so. I will come to rescue you, and when I do, I'm going to do battle against the snake. I'll get rid of the sin and the dark and the sadness that you let in here, and I am coming back for you." And he would. One day, God himself would come. Well, we can see the temptation that came into the world and how Adam and Eve just weren't able to not give into it. But God still forgave them, and God made a way for his children to not be in pain anymore, but to be with him in heaven at the very end of it. So that was the story for today of Adam and Eve. So let's get into our craft. All right, now we're gonna get into our craft. So let's look into the supplies that we will need. So I have 3 pieces of paper. I've made it a little bit easier on myself, and I got different colors that I will be making for our craft. So I have a yellow piece, a green piece, and a red piece of paper. If you just have a white piece, that's okay. You can just color it, or you can leave it white, whatever you prefer. I have my coloring materials, so I have my markers and my colored pencils. You can also grab your crayons, paint, pens, all that fun jazz. And then I have a ruler. I also have a pair of scissors, and then my tape or glue, whichever one you prefer. So now you go grab your supplies, and then I'll meet you back here. Alrighty, so to start out with, we are going to use, we'll set our red aside, and we are going to be using the green and the yellow. So what we're gonna do is we are going to, oopsies, we are going to make 8 straight lines going this way, so the long way. We're gonna make 8, going this way, not the long way. So you'll measure this out, and this should be an 11 and a half. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna make 8 little marks. So we'll probably do it at about 1.5. So 1.5. Perfect. So I did that on my yellow piece of paper, and now I'm going to do that on my green piece of paper. So I'm just marking off where we're going to be drawing our lines. So I'm doing it in 1.5 increments. That way they are thick enough, but to make sure that we also have enough. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. That way when we connect our lines, they are at the same length. Perfect. So once I've made all of my lines, I'm going to go ahead and cut out all of the different lines, and then we'll have 8 pieces of the green, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, we'll have 8 pieces of the green and 8 pieces of the yellow. So go ahead and cut out your green and yellow pieces of paper. Okay, once you've cut out all of your pieces, now we're gonna start assembling. So what we're doing is we're making the snake or the serpent that tempted Adam and Eve. So we are going to make little rings, and we're gonna be taping them together. So we'll be taking it just like this, and we're gonna make a little loop just like that. So you can either glue this or you can tape it together. So for this first one, I'll grab some tape, and I'll make my loop, and then I'll tape it on there. Then I'm going to get a yellow one, and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to intertwine it in between and go through like that. So I'm making 2 little rings. So I'll get a little piece of tape, or I'll glue it, and we'll just tape that like that. So now I have 2 rings. Now we're going to repeat this and do this and do another ring like this, and we'll just keep going back and forth with green and yellow. You can also do your own pattern, so you can do green, green, yellow, yellow, or green, green, yellow, green, green. You can do all green, it can be blue, it can be purple. You can make this serpent whatever color you want, but you will just be looping them together just like that to make a long string. So go ahead and start connecting your serpent. Alrighty, so once you have pulled them all together, you'll have one long line that comes together, and it can slither back and forth just like that. So now what we're going to use the red paper for is we are going to make 2 red eyes, and then we are going to make a long little tongue like that. So I just made 2 circles and a rectangle with a little triangle, top of the triangle at the bottom. So you can draw those and just cut them out really quickly. and then I'll show you what to do with them after that. Alrighty, I have taken these two out. So what I'm going to do is you can choose the side that you want to be the front. So I'll choose the green, and I am going to either tape or glue this, and this is going to be the tongue of the snake. So I'll go ahead and tape that guy onto, and I'm just going to tape or glue the tip of it because we want the other part to be sticking out and kind of be a little bit floppy. So then I'm going to take my two eyes and I'm going to glue them like that above the tongue. So you can either glue them or tape them. I'll probably glue them just to make sure that they stay. Alrighty, and once I have finished with that, I have made my serpent. So this is the snake that, remember, it tempts Adam and Eve in the garden to eat the fruit that God forbid them to eat. So this is the bad guy in this story. So we want to try and stay away from the temptations that the snake or the serpent may come up with. So another way that you can add to this craft is you can get another piece of paper, maybe a popsicle stick, or a couple, and you can make little figures of Adam and Eve, and you can make, like, put the chopsticks on them, and then you can have them going up to the serpent and saying, no, I won't eat the forbidden fruit, or no, I won't do this. And you can practice saying no to something even if you're tempted to do it. So this is just part of the craft, but it is just a little something to play around with so you can reenact the story that we just read. Well, thanks for joining me for this craft. I look forward to next time. Thanks for watching this week's Children's Ministry Online. We look forward to seeing some of the crafts that you all made and hope that you'll join us next week. Have a great week.